Hello, friends and clients. I am Jennifer Walker Gates, immigration attorney with JLW Immigration Law Group, and I am here today to talk about getting citizenship in the year 2024, this is especially for those of you who don't speak English. Now, I know if you don't speak English, you are probably not watching this video, but maybe one of your family members wants to apply for citizenship and they don't speak English. Maybe one of your loved ones is curious about getting citizenship when you don't speak English. So we're going to be talking about that, how that is working in 2024. It is a new year. Happy New Year, everyone. We're super happy to see you. Our goal this year is to hit 10,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. So please, if you haven't subscribed yet, please take a minute to hit that subscribe button. That is going to help us a lot to get the information out to the immigrant community that y'all need to be successful in your immigration journey. For now, let's focus on what we are talking about today. Okay, we are talking today about naturalization when you don't meet the English requirement. Okay, so before we get into that part, let's talk about the basic requirements for naturalization. Okay, generally speaking, there are 5 sort of overarching main requirements for naturalization. Number 1, you need to have 5 years as a resident in the United States. You need to have been living as a permanent resident in the U.S. for 5 years. If you are married to a U.S. citizen, that number drops to 3 years. But you need to have been living in the United States during that time. You need to have been physically present in the U.S. for at least half of those days, really demonstrating that you did live in the U.S. You aren't living somewhere else as a permanent resident. You're living in the U.S. Okay, so that is what's most important as a first requirement. Second, you need to show that you've been living at your current address for at least 3 months. You can't just move to a new place and immediately apply for citizenship. You have to live there for at least 90 days. You have to show, number 3, good moral character. I have put GMC there for brevity, but it stands for good moral character. And that means you've been paying your taxes for the past 5 years or 3 years. You have been paying child support the past 3 to 5 years. You don't have arrests or convictions during that time, or if you were arrested during that time, you need to be able to show that your arrest was dismissed and didn't result in any kind of criminal conviction on your record. So good moral character is really, really important to show. When they adjudicate this application, they can go back outside of 5 years to look at your history, your criminal history. But generally speaking, they are really looking at the 5 years prior to your filing. So you need to be able to demonstrate that during that time you have had good moral character. Number 4, you have to speak English unless you meet one of the exceptions, and you have to pass a civics test. You have to get at least 6 of 10 questions right out of the 100 questions on the current version of the civics exam. Now, we are in January of 2024 right now, and there has been talk about updating the citizenship exam and making it harder. So right now is a great time to apply. If you apply right now, you will be eligible to take the current version of the exam before it is made more difficult, if in fact that is what's going to happen. Now, here are some exceptions to the English requirement. The first one is what we call the 50-20 rule. If you are at least 50 years old and have been a resident of the U.S. for at least 20 years, you qualify to take the exam and have your interview on your application conducted in the language of your choice. It can be your native language, your first language, or whatever language you best speak and understand. If you speak Spanish, there is a strong likelihood that someone at USCIS, whoever adjudicates your application, may speak English as well. Depending on what language you speak and what community you live in, the agent at USCIS may or may not speak your preferred language. If not, they will get an interpreter on the telephone, or you may also provide your own interpreter. And you will need to provide somebody who is not a direct family member who can attend that interview with you. Now, during the pandemic, USCIS started to use these contract interpreters over the phone rather than having additional people come into the interview. I understand that in some places that is still happening, and in other places they're back to requiring in-person interpreters provided by the applicant. So it's going to be important to check with the local field office where you are to understand whether you need to bring your own interpreter or whether they will provide one via a telephone service. Either way, if you meet one of these requirements of 50-20, 50 years of age, 20 years as a resident, or 55 years of age, 15 years as a resident, then you can take the test and have your interview in the language that you choose. Another important exception to note is that if you're 65 years of age or older and you have at least 20 years as a resident, not only do you get to take the exam in your own language and have the interview in the language of your choice, you also get a simpler version of the civics test. You will have a civics test comprised of 25 questions rather than 100. And so you only have to get 6 of those 25 questions correct in order to pass the test. The other thing to note is that if you are suffering from a disability that prevents you from learning English language and or the civics material, it doesn't matter how long you've been a resident. You have to have been a resident for 5 years, but you don't have to meet these other age and lengthy residence requirements because you can file a form, what's called Form N-648, to demonstrate that you have this disability that is preventing you from being able to learn English or civics. And this is how you can get an exemption to those requirements and become a U.S. citizen, even if you're suffering from a disability that prevents you from meeting all of the requirements. I'm going to be talking about Form N-648 and disability exemptions for citizenship in a different video. Those cases are actually quite complex and have a lot of sort of hefty requirements associated with them, but I will be discussing that in more links, so be sure to check that one out. But for purposes of this video, it is important to note that if you do meet these age and length of residence requirements, you can apply for U.S. citizenship and you can become a U.S. citizen in spite of not speaking English. And you can have your test and your interview conducted in the language that you choose. We at our firm at JLW Immigration Law Group encourage all of our clients to pursue U.S. citizenship as soon as they can. It is a great privilege to be a U.S. citizen, to have a U.S. passport, to be able to travel around the world with a U.S. passport is an enormous privilege. It opens up so many doors for us. It also enables us to vote in the political system that belongs to potentially the most powerful country in the world. That is a really important privilege as well. As we are here in early January 2024, we're getting ready to celebrate Martin Luther King Day. And, the opportunity to vote in a peaceful election and make political change through peaceful means is a great way to honor Dr. King's legacy. And it is a really wonderful way to participate in the United States and this country that you have made your home and hopefully where you've become a citizen. So please do apply as soon as you can. We don't know what's going to happen in this next election. We don't know how requirements and circumstances may change in the future. We know that during the last presidential administration, processes that had become very sort of predictable and routine over time became much less so, and things were much more challenging. So right now is a great time to apply because it is possible to get your application heard and finalized and approved before the end of this year if you're applying now in January, depending on where your USCIS field office is. So I just want to encourage anyone who is eligible to go for it. Don't be afraid. I have had so many clients who worked so hard to learn the civics material, worked so hard to learn the basic English requirements, if that's what they needed. Even many of them who didn't have the opportunity to study in school were still able to teach themselves the material needed to pass the citizenship exam and interview. It is possible, and the requirements are really pretty much, basic English and, 6 out of 10 questions correct off that civics exam. So it is worth trying. It is worth shooting for. You get at least 2 shots at that citizenship exam. If you don't pass it the first time, you can have another try. I just want to encourage anyone watching to go ahead and apply for citizenship. Of course, reach out to us at JLW Immigration Law Group if you have questions, if you need help analyzing your eligibility, if you need help understanding whether your English is adequate to apply, or whether you meet one of these exceptions to the English and civics requirement. We would be honored and happy to assist you. Please reach out to us. You can find us at jlw.law. On that website, you can schedule a consultation with me or any of my colleagues at the firm by going directly to our calendar link and scheduling a consultation. We would be happy to assist. I hope this video has been helpful. Please reach out to us and stay safe until next time.